Hello, good morning everyone. Let us study some basic concepts in mathematical analysis today. So what are we going to study in this chapter is set and intervals, limits, continuous functions, examples, derivatives, relation between derivability and continuity. This is what we are going to study. So let's start with set and intervals. Set and intervals. Set is a well-defined collection of objects. Okay. In other words, an aggregate or class of objects having a specified property in common, which enables us to tell whether any given object belongs to it or not. So what do we know about it? Whether a given object belongs to this particular set or not. The objects of the set are called members or elements of the set. Sets are denoted by capital alphabets like capital A, capital B, capital C, etc. And the elements inside it are denoted by the small letters A, B, and C, small. Right. Some typical type of sets which we denote with this particular symbol, these are IN. IN denotes the set of the natural numbers. We all know natural numbers are 1, 2, 3 up to infinity. Capital I, this is a set of integers like -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. It contains all these type of elements. Q is the set of rational numbers. X such that X is P by Q. This is how it is defined, where P and Q are integers and Q is not equal to 0. Capital S, the set of irrational numbers. It is defined as X such that X is not equal to P by Q. IR, it is a set of real numbers and it is set as IR is equal to Q union S, means the set of real numbers will contain the elements of all rational numbers as well as irrational numbers, right? Because every element will be there, right? Every number will be there in the real numbers. Now, interval. Let's study about the interval. Two types of intervals are there mainly. One is open interval, another one is closed interval. Let us study about open interval. Let A is less than B, such that A comma B set is equal to X such that X lies between A to B. That is, it is a set consisting of all real numbers between A and B, excluding A and B. It is denoted by either this type, open brackets, or we can denote it with small bracket also. This is known as open interval. So open interval will contain all the elements in it except A and B, which are coming between A and B. Closed intervals. Closed interval is defined as big bracket A comma B, X such that X again lies between A and B, where A and B are including in it. So we will count A and B also in this closed interval, whereas lower and upper unit is not counted in the open interval. Semi-closed or semi-open intervals means one side it is open, one side it is closed. How we'll know that it is open? It's this side because small bracket is there is here, and here this side big bracket is there. That means it is open from left and closed from B. So the elements will be like, we can write it like A such that A is less than X is less than equal to B. Equal to is coming here because it contains B, it is closed from B, right? Similarly, if it is closed from A and open from B, it will be like A less than equal to X less than B, where it includes A but not B. So bounded and unbounded sets. A set A of numbers is said to be bounded if there exists a number K such that X less than equal to K for all X belongs to A. Okay, did you understand? A set A of numbers is said to be bounded if there exists a number k such that x is less than equal to k for all x belongs to A. The number k is called the upper bound of A. Means all the elements in this set will be less than k. If no such number k exists, the set is said to be unbounded above or not bounded above. Okay, so the set A is said to be bounded below if there exists a number k such that this k is the minimum number. No number is there below this. Right, so we can write as k less than equal to x for all x belongs to A. So two conditions are there where k is the biggest number. Another one is when is the k is the smallest number. When k is the biggest, it is known as upper bound of A. When k is the smallest, it is known as the lower bound of A. If no such number k exists, the set is said to be unbounded below or not bounded below. A set is said to be bounded if it is bounded above as well as below. This is very important. A set will be called bounded or if and only if it is bounded both above and below. Now, what is supremum and infimum? So, it may be seen that if a set has one upper bound and it has an infinite number of upper bounds. Thus, every set A bounded above determines an infinite set because there are infinite number of upper bounds, the set of its upper bounds. So this set of upper bounds is bounded below in as many as every number of A is a lower bound thereof. Similarly, a set A bounded below determines an infinite set of its lower bounds. One time, upper set of infinite upper bounds, another time set of infinite lower bounds, which is bounded above by the members of it. If you want to remember, you can remember it like this. Upper bound is like that every member of A is lower bounded. Okay, and if it is a set of lower bounds, every member of A is upper bounded. Like this, you have to remember, it's reverse. Like supremum, it is represented by this epsilon. If the set of all upper bounds of set A has the smallest member, say capital M, then M is called the supremum or least bound of A. Means if the set of all upper bounds, suppose you have the set of all upper bounds like some numbers are there. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, any numbers are there. Right? Some numbers are there. Let's say A, B, C, some numbers are there. Let's say any. Okay, so if the set of all upper bounds of set has smallest member where it will come? Here. Okay, so this is smallest member. This smallest member is known as this smallest member, which comes here. Okay, this is known as the supremum or least bound. Name is supremum, but it is least upper bound. Reverse again, notice it. Okay, so note, the supremum of a set may or may not exist. In case it exists, it may or may not belong to A. So if this supremum exists, first of all, it may exist or may not exist. If it is existing, that then it is not necessarily belonging to it. May belong or it may not. And the supremum is unique. It is unique. Okay, no other supremum is there. Next, infimum. If the set of all lower bounds of set A has the greatest member, now for supremum it was the smallest member. Now for infimum it is the greatest number. Again reverse. Infim means is small, but here greatest member of say small m, small m, then small m is called the infimum or greatest lower bound or greatest lower bound of A, set A. It is denoted by theta. The above notes A and B are applicable here also. Oscillation of a bounded set. Oscillation you have studied now in physics. So let's see what is here. This epsilon and theta denote the supremum and infimum of some bounded set. Then the difference between the biggest point and the smallest point, supremum and infimum, is called the oscillation of the set. Means from here to here, how much it is oscillating from supremum to infimum, supremum to infimum. This is oscillation of a bounded set. Neighborhood of a point. Now, let's see a number, any open interval A, comma B, of which C is a member, is called a neighborhood of C. Now, suppose any open interval is there, A, AB. If in AB there is some number C, okay, that C is called the neighborhood of C. But if C minus epsilon and C plus epsilon, where epsilon is greater than 0, is a neighborhood of C. Okay, so if C is there, C is the member of a open interval A, B, then C is called the neighborhood of C. Okay, and in particular C minus epsilon, C plus epsilon, where epsilon is always greater than 0, a positive number, is the neighborhood of C. Hope you are understanding till here. Now let us continue. Limits. Let f be a function defined for all points in a neighborhood N of a point C, except possibly at point C itself. The function f is said to tend a limit L as x tends to, tends means it approaches to C. For each epsilon greater than 0, there exists a delta which is also greater than 0, such that mod of C minus x minus C lies between 0 and delta. Mod of x minus C lies between 0 and delta. Implies mod of fx minus L is less than epsilon. In symbol, it is simple to write it like this. Limit x tends to C, fx is equal to small l. Okay. Limit x tends to C, fx is equal to small l. Once again, I'll tell you about the limits. The function f is said to tend to a limit L as x tends to C if for each epsilon greater than 0, there exists a delta greater than 0 such that mod of x minus C. Here is x, here is C. I'm telling you some tips also so that you can remember. So, mod of x minus C lies between 0 to delta. Implies mod of fx minus L is less than epsilon. Right? Now, something about the left hand limit and the right hand limit. While defining the limit of a function f as x tends to C, we consider values of fx where x is very close to C. The values of x may be greater or less than C. If we restrict x to value less than C, then we say that x tends to C. From below or from the left, where we write it symbolically as x tends to C minus 0 or C minus. The limit of f with this restriction on x is called the left hand limit. Means left hand limit, of course it will go to left side, so we'll subtract. Remember like this. Similarly, if x takes only values greater than C, then x is said to tend to C from above or right side increasing plus. So symbolically we write it as x tends to C plus 0 or x tends to c plus. The limit of f is then called the right hand limit. Okay. So left hand c minus, right hand c plus. Right hand is always right, increasing. Left hand, because we don't give much value to it, it's in decreasing. So c minus. Remember like this. Okay, next. Now definition 1.2.2 says a function f is said to tend to a limit L as x tends to c from the left if for each epsilon greater than 0 there exists a delta greater than 0 such that mod of fx minus L is less than epsilon, where x lies between c minus delta less than c. Symbolically, we then write it as limit x tends to c minus 0, fx is equal to L, or fc minus 0 is equal to L, or fc minus is L. Once again, a function f is said to tend to a limit L as x tends to c from left. So from left it is tending a limit to L to x if for each epsilon greater than 0 there exists a delta greater than 0 such that mod of fx minus L less than epsilon, where c minus delta is less than x is less than c. In symbol we can write it as limit x tends to c minus 0 fx is equal to L, or fc minus 0 is equal to L. C minus 0. Remember, everywhere minus only, nowhere plus. And fc minus is equal to L. Now, for plus also, we should see a function f is said to tend to a limit L as x tends to c from the right. Now, this side from the right. Right is plus, yes. If for each epsilon greater than 0, there exists delta greater than 0, such that same thing, mod of fx minus L is less than epsilon, where now because it is from right side, so here we will add delta, here nothing will be there. So c, x lies between c and c plus delta, c and c plus delta this time. Okay, in symbols we then write limit x tends to c plus 0 fx is equal to L, or f c plus 0 is equal to L, or f c plus is L. Same thing, all are denoting the same thing, because right hand limit, so of course we'll adding, so c plus 0 here or here or here, c plus, all are same. Now it may be noted that limit x tends to c fx exists if and only if both the limits, the left hand and the right hand limit exist and are equal. So in the question, if in an exam they are asking whether the limit, check the whether the limit for this function exists or not, what you need to check? You need to check that the right hand limit and left hand limit both should exist and both should be equal. Okay, now see this example. Find the right hand and the left hand limits of a function defined as follows. So the function is fx is equal to mod of x minus 4 by x minus 4, where x is not 4, 0 where x is 4. Now, when x is greater than 4, okay, mod of x minus 4 is x minus 4. Of course, it will be a positive value, so we can write it as x minus 4. Now, so limit x tends to 4 plus 0. So we are going to check the limit both side, right side and left side. So first right side, x plus 4 plus 0, fx is equal to limit x tends to 4 plus 0, mod of x minus 4 upon x by 4, because 4, it's not equal to 0, right? So we'll take this function. Mod of x minus 4 by x minus 4. And we know that if x is greater than 4, it becomes x minus 4. X minus 4 cancels. So limit 4 plus 0 is 1. So it is 1. Again, x If x is less than 4, then if this value will become negative, so mod of this will become negative. Okay, so limit x tends to 4 minus 0, x minus 4 mod upon x minus 4 is equal to limit x tends to 4 minus 0 minus x minus 4 by x minus 4. So it became minus. Here minus is missing, we should write minus also. So the value becomes minus. Now both exist. See, we are getting value of both, right side limit and left side limit, but both are not equal. One is 1 and another one is minus 1. So we'll say in the end that limit both right hand limit and left hand limit are existing but not equal, so function does not exist. So we'll write function limit x tends to 4, fx does not exist. Understood? Very easy. Now, evaluate limit x tends to 1, x square minus 1 upon x minus 1. Now, let us evaluate the left hand limit and the right hand limits. When x tends to 1 minus 0, put x is equal to 1 minus h. H is greater than 0. 1 minus h, because they have not given us the numbers here. Now hence h tends to 0 plus, as n tends to n 1 minus 0. So that limit x tends to 1, x square minus 1 upon x minus 1. Limit x tends to 0 plus. So instead of x, what we can write is 1 minus h. Let's put x is equal to 1 minus h. So 1 minus h whole square minus 1 upon minus h, limit h tends to 0 plus. So it became, open the bracket, then minus h will be cancelled, then it will become limit h tends to 0 plus 2 minus h. And because it is 0, so it will become, value will become 0. Again, when x tends to 1 plus 0, put x is equal to 1 plus h this time, and h is greater than 0. So limit x tends to 1 plus 0 x square minus 1 upon x minus 1. Again, we'll open the brackets, I'll get 2 plus h and it's 2. So both the left hand limit and right hand limit exist and are equal. Hence the limit of the given function exists and equal to 2. Okay, so function exists, limit exists. Limit of the function exists. Since x is not 1, division by x minus 1 is not permissible. So I'll write limit x tends to 1, x square minus 1 upon x plus minus 1 is x plus 1 and the value of it is 2. Understood? So in next class, we'll study about the continuous function. Okay, till then, bye-bye, take care.